picking up again where we left off, and now we know that Nehemiah is getting ready to go forward and do the work. Verse 10 says, when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite official heard about this, they were very much disturbed that someone had come to promote the welfare of the Israelites. We'll talk about them later. Verse 11 says, I went to Jerusalem, and after staying there 3 days, verse 12 says, set out during the night with a few others. I had not told anyone what my God had put on my heart to do for Jerusalem. There were no mounts with me except the one I was riding on. Verse 13 says, by night I went out through the valley gate toward the Jackal, well in the dung gate, examining the walls of Jerusalem, which had been broken down in its gates, which had been destroyed by fire. Verse 14 says, then I moved on toward the fountain gate and the king's pool, but there was not enough room for my mount to get through. Verse 15 says, so I went up by the valley by night, examining the wall. Finally, I turned back and re-entered through the valley gate. The officials did not know where I had gone or what I was doing, because as yet I had said nothing to the Jews or the priests or the nobles or officials or any others who would be doing the work. Didn't even tell them about it, but he already knew that they're going to be getting in line to do the work, right? We'll cover that later. 17, verse 6 says, then I said to him, you see the trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. Verse 18 says, I also told them about the gracious hand of my God on me and what the king had said to me. They replied, let us start rebuilding. So they began this good work. Verse 19 says, but when Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite, official, and Geshem the Arab heard about it, they mocked and ridiculed us. What is this you are doing, they asked. Are you rebelling against the king? Verse 20 says, I answered them by saying, the God of heaven will give us success. We, his servants, will start rebuilding. But as for you, you have no share in Jerusalem or any claim or historic right to it. I want to talk about standing strong in the face of opposition. Because anytime God leads you to do anything good, meaningful, generous, lasting, expect some type of opposition. You must expect some type of obstacle, some form of resistance. Right? This is in every area of life. Right? I call myself going to the gym 4 or 5 days a week now, right? And I'm trying really hard, but it seems like I work out really hard and then I drive, and then Whataburger, it's like that light just shines into my car. It's kind of like this spotlight right here. Raymond, you just left the gym. You burned 700 calories. Yeah, but Whataburger lights. Come on. But anytime we do something it typically comes up. I'm using that as an example. I know you guys can relate, but think about something that you have, something that you're passionate about. Sometimes when you stepped out and you realize only need to be met face to face with some opposition. Yeah. This is the reason why you have to clarify some things on the front end. Yeah. What is it that you want? How long will it take you? And when will it be back? You have to have these things confirmed, because when you really get the obstacles, you can't forget why you set out in the first place. And what you said you were going to accomplish in the first place. So we're going to have that opposition. It's going to happen. Right? And so now we're in chapter 3, and the task that we are embarking on as a church, this kingdom assignment, is huge. It requires participation. Active participation. Not just verbal participation. In chapter 3, you'll notice that Nehemiah dispatched the people in the area of their passion. That's the reason why we've been asking you, what is it that you're passionate about? See, this was important because there's a different way that you work when you're passionate about something versus when you're just going through the motions. I encourage you, I'll read a few scriptures from Nehemiah chapter 3, but I encourage you to go back and read Nehemiah chapter 3. Right? Initially, when I first started this series, I was just going to kind of glance through it, and I was going to move on to some of the stuff that's more exciting. But the Lord kept on bringing me back to Nehemiah chapter 3. Right? Because it's amazing to see what can happen when people are in one accord. Yes, it is. Amazing. I encourage you this week to go back. I mean, even if you've read it before, go back and read it again. And seeing how all these different people came together on one accord. And I've asked you just make a note now to go back and challenge yourself to read that this week. One thing that's really interesting is that the word rebuilt or repair was used 23 times in chapter 3 in the NIV version. That's the version that the Bible that I read. 23 times. Rebuilt, repaired. That's when you take something that is damaged and you restore it. See, the thing is, you don't have to always start all over. Take the valuable lessons that you've learned, because there's something of value still there. I have a friend who flips houses, and he flips so many houses all across the country. And he sent me a picture of a house that he just bought, and it was the ugliest house I've ever seen in my entire life. And he looked at me and said, yeah, but the bones are good, the foundation is good. He's like, I can, you can't fix the bad foundation, but I can take care of all the cosmetic stuff. Now think about that now, is that when we look at our lives or things that we've been through, we're realizing that, there's times where we want to just throw in a towel and quit, and God's saying there's still value there.
All right. Yeah.
God's saying that your foundation is still strong because I'm your foundation. Life may have dealt you some blows, but as long as I'm your foundation, we can take care of the cosmetics. Putting your life back together, your marriage back together, the job that you need, getting your finances on. We can take care of all those things. Because the Lord specializes in those who think that they're unusable. I've watched people who know maybe one or two scriptures, but they have a clear understanding of those principles, do powerful things. On the flip side, I know people who know the Bible backwards and forwards, but they don't have the heart behind it. And they always end up getting left behind. And you look at, the person who maybe doesn't have all of it together, but realize if they can just focus on those principles. So some of them are gathered stones from amongst the ruins, and they're examining them. Saying, look at this, I can use this. See, I thought it was demolished, and they talked about the gate had been demolished, it was destroyed. But also they went amongst the ruins to find things that they could use to rebuild. What does that tell me? That it doesn't matter what your life looks like. That there's value in whatever is left over. God's saying, I know it may look like a loss to you. I know it had been very unfortunate. I know that you don't want to think about all the things that you've been going through. But if you give me the opportunity to rebuild, I can use this. God said, if it's perfect for the wall, but God, I don't like this. This is something that's painful. I don't want to tell anybody my true testimony. God's saying, if I can heal you, if you trust me, I can use this. To repair, to rebuild. That's just cosmetic. You're just worried about what people think about you, and the opinion of man and your reputation. But God's saying, I'm trying to do a kingdom assignment. We're talking about legacy leaving in the assignments right now. God's saying, I can use this. I can use it. Because you know what? He has a final say. This morning at 4:47, I was woken up. The Lord was telling me, he told me, I heard him very clearly. He said, get ready for a role reversal. You're saying, what are you saying, Pastor Ray? The very weapon that the enemy tried to use to humiliate you, when he thought that he destroyed you because their gate was destroyed, will be the very tool that the Lord uses to empower you. The scripture said earlier that the conditions of the wall was a disgrace. But how are you telling me that the same thing that everyone said is a disgrace is the same thing that God wants to use now to build up, to be a monument for him? That doesn't make any sense. The Lord said, get ready for a role reversal. The thing that you thought was going to humiliate you and set you back is the same thing that I can pick up and use for my glory as part of my kingdom assignment, as part of your kingdom assignment. It's all about what am I passionate about? And that's the area that you use right there. You can use it. The enemy says, oh yeah, you remember when you had that foreclosure? Yeah, I do remember, but now do you see have you seen my house lately? Have you seen a lot of people that I've been able to help lately? Or you remember when you went through this bad relationship problem? Yeah, but you see now what I'm able to do to people who I'm able to heal? You remember when you were broke and didn't have a dime? But yeah, have you seen it now what I'm able to do? God's saying, if you just pick it up and realize that it may have been a disgrace at one time, God's saying, I can get ready for a role reversal. Everything that the enemy meant bad to humiliate you and keep you down, the stuff that keeps you from flying and keeping you from believing what God absolutely wants to do in your life. See, I stand up and I stand out now because I know that God wants to do something amazing with my life. So I say, I can be transparent because I could not care less if people judge me, because I know, God, hey, God, if you can get the glory of this, I will use it, God, for your glory, God. Then I say, okay, you'll let me use it, we can use it, and we're building something strong. I speak, get get ready for a role reversal. How things will no longer look that way. The thing that you had your head down in shame will be the very thing that you will hold your head up high and say, God, look what you've done. Look what you're doing. You say, I can use it. We're all refurbished in some sort of way. I was looking up the synonym for refurbish. It says to renovate, to recondition, to rehabilitate, to revamp, to make over. I'm thinking of those are the type of things that I needed in my life when I didn't have it all together. I know we have a lot of perfect people that may be represented in here, but it also says that you can overhaul or to restore or to renew or to develop or to rebuild or to reconstruct. I don't know where you've been in your life or the things that you've experienced, but there's some things where I say, God, I can use this in my life to remodel, to redecorate, to spruce up, to improve, to upgrade. There's some things in our life saying, God, all right, God, I know I've been down in the slump, but God said, okay, now that you said you give me permission to use it, now you're able to upgrade for my glory, for my kingdom assignment. Because if you can use it, if you can just give me permission to use it, if you can bless it, someone else can be blessed by what you've been through. God's saying, yeah. I'll use that to build the wall. The same thing the enemy looks like, that you're vulnerable. God's saying, no, it's not vulnerable, because there's a role reversal that's going on right now. Those shambles, that life, or whatever it is, the broken dreams, God's saying, I'm putting it back together again. Back together again. Nehemiah chapter 3, verse 1. It says, Eliashib, the high priest, and his fellow priests went to work and rebuilt the sheep gate. They dedicated it and set its doors in place, building as far as the Tower of the 100, which they dedicated, and as far as the Tower of Hananel. First thing I want to mention here, I said, okay, what's the point of starting off with them? It says the high priest. So the leaders set the example, and that's what we've done. We've done a great job of setting the example. I firsthand have watched these leaders and them cast a vision. I've watched everything that they've gone through, and everything is very important. It starts at the top of the house. I get that, but they've done their part. Amen. Now we're in the process of doing our part, because it starts with leadership. What has been done? Well, verse 1 tells us that Eliashib, the high priest, rose up and he enlisted the priests to work with him. The priests were the religious leaders of the nation at that time. You'll also see in verse 22 and 28, it mentions that other priests were on the wall as well. See, it was a right that these men, would show God's glory and get involved in this project, and their example led others to join in. The sheep gate was important because it was the way of the gate used for the sacrifices. That's why the priest started there, because that's what he was passionate about. I'm passionate about the sacrifice. You can't put me I can help you out in this other wall, but I want to start right here, because this is what's very important to me. And that's the reason why it's important for everyone to play their part. See, because to them, leadership was not just giving orders. They rolled up their sleeves and got to work. And if the leaders call God's people to serve the Lord, are themselves not involved in the service as well? And we know that the leaders here are involved. Verse 17 says that it records for us, it talks about the involvement of the Levites. They were also important to the service of the temple. They taught the law to the people. They too set a good example. Verses 9, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17 through 19 records 8 civil leaders who worked on the wall. Even though they were men of authority, they wanted to help. They didn't think that the hard labor was beneath them. These civil leaders set a good example for the people. I was reading a quote this week, because everyone knows I love quotes. And D.L. Moody said it awesome. He said, it is better to put 10 people to work than try to do the work of 10 people. Yes. It's better to put 10 people to work than try to do the work of 10 people. And many times that we try to do the work of 10 people, realizing that we allow people to do the work of 10 people because everyone's not stepping up and we're doing our part. But it's better to put 10 people to work. Because if you can do it all by yourself, then your vision is not big enough. But I want to ask you, how are you going to get the support that you need? These last several weeks, these last 2 weeks, we've been taking time before service, after service to be very clear about what it is that we're trying to do, to talk about this goal, so that way we're all saying the same thing. And so that way, if you've been here for these last few weeks while I've been preaching, you understand exactly what we're trying to accomplish. So that way, when you're out there in the community, the people that you know, the resources that you have, will be able to make sure that we're saying exactly the same thing. So how will we get the support that we need? Right? So we know first it starts off by, leading by example. Nehemiah chapter 3 verse 5 says the next section was repaired by the men of Tekoa, but their nobles would not put their shoulders to the work under their supervisors. Number 2 is, not everyone's going to work. It's very unfortunate, but there's something you have to realize. Not everyone is going to work. Amen. Not everyone is able to follow the example of other leaders. But guess what? Some people are just not going to do it. But guess what? That's okay. Amen. But I want to ask you this question. I mean, you can't stop what God is doing. If God is there, God for you, no matter who it is, you can't stop it. But you have to ask yourself, God, by me not moving, am I hindering the progress that you want to make? Am I stopping someone else who wants to get involved? And because of my own insecurities or whatever the case may be, am I hindering the process? See, you can't stop the growth that comes from God. But you want to make sure you're not hindering the progress. And if you're hindering the progress, I got some really great words to tell you, some encouragement right here. Get out of the way. Right? Just because you're not going to work, don't get in the way of people who are working. I know that's maybe not popular teaching, I know, but it's the God's honest truth. Don't talk about those who are getting the work done. If you're not in yourself willing to go roll up your sleeves and to contribute. Because everyone has a different role to play. If that's your role, you play your role, but please get out of the way. Verse 27 says, next to them, the men of Tekoa repaired another section from the great projecting tower of the wall of Ophel. So the next thing I'll tell you is that some people are going to do more work than others. And guess what? That's okay. So these men of Tekoa, they built in 2 places. They finished one, they're like, okay, what's next? And that's okay. Everybody has a role to play in the process. But many times, because of someone else's role doesn't look like our role, or many times we get in this position saying, well, I've done all these things, and we have our laundry list of things that we've done, and we compare it to someone else, realizing that your assignment, your grace that God has, the calling on your life, could be different. The key that I want to make, and when we all tie this together, is realizing that even those who were detractors, those who were contributing to it, everyone had a role to play, and the job still got accomplished. So if you did a lot or if you did a little, it doesn't matter. Everyone was working together and doing their part, which is very important for us. They built in 2 places. There's like 7 or 8 other instances in this chapter alone that talks about people repairing another section after they finish the section they're in. What are you saying? I'm saying that sometimes that when you finish one assignment, that doesn't mean that you're done. The question that you should ask yourself, God, okay, God, I finished this, but what's next? See, I'm one of those what's next type of guys. And I blame my father because he's a what's next type of guy too, right?